By the end of today's episode, you'll know exactly what to say in a submissions note when you have zero connection to the project, so that you still stand out and get remembered. Welcome to the Actor's Career Compass, where we help aspiring screen actors find high-quality auditions, sign with great agents, and book major roles in legit productions. I'm your host, Martin Benson, and today I'll be covering how to turn no connection into a strength, along with why being relatable beats being relevant in submissions notes, and an exact formula to make casting say, "Oh, I get this person." Okay, so a project is casting and you've got no connection to it, right? No personal story, no direct tie to the script, no obvious in. Most actors are just going to write something super generic in that case, or maybe no submissions note at all, right? "Hi, I'd like to be considered for the role of Jake." Okay, that's so boring. The thing is, casting isn't always looking for a connection that you might have to the project. Sure, if you have one, it's a great way to stand out, but if you don't, they're just looking for a connection to you. The real job of a submissions note is not to prove that you're perfect for the role. Instead, it's to make casting think, "Oh, I get this person." So how do you do that? Well, when a casting director or indie filmmaker or whoever is scrolling through all these submissions, right, they're not really analyzing things too deeply. They're almost in a trance in the first stage of it. I mean, I've cast many projects myself, and it's just like, just scrolling and like, yes, yeah, maybe. And they kind of like, sometimes you kind of just lose yourself in it, right? But the nice thing is, if you can snap them out of that trance, they're going to definitely notice that. So what kind of things can snap them out? Well, honesty, emotion, humor especially. And that's why, funny enough, saying you don't have any connection can actually be more engaging than pretending that you do. So what do you write for projects when you don't have a connection? Well, instead of saying, "I deeply relate to this story because of X, Y, and Z," flip it. Say something like, "I actually don't have any direct connection to this world, but that's exactly what got me so excited about your project." It makes you honest and it snaps them out of their stupor because they're just scrolling and suddenly they're like, "Oh, that's different. That's interesting." It's like "Oh, I get this person. They're being truthful and they kind of grabbed my attention by being a real human being." And they might laugh a bit to themselves, right? So you might say something like, "I love getting to step into something totally different from my own life. That's why I got into acting in the first place," right? So you're basically saying that you have no connection to your role, and then you're adding that little sentence there. And suddenly they're not just looking at your submission anymore. They're seeing how you think, and they feel like you're actually a human just like them instead of just some other acting profile. Now, of course, one of the most critical things is to just remember to keep your submissions notes short. This is critical. If you're able to do this in 1 to 3 short sentences, it works. If you do it in 6 sentences, that's a bit too much, and they may not even read what you wrote, and they might just skip past it. That's why you want to keep it very short so it draws their eye. They're like, "This is something, just based on the size of this, I'll look at it for a second," right? And they look at it, and then that first sentence, "I have no connection to this project." And then they're like, "What?" And then they read the rest, and it just kind of captures them, and oh, cool. So at the end of the day, you don't need a direct connection to a project. Being relatable is going to beat being relevant. You can use contrast to stand out. Just make sure to, again, keep it real and keep it short. Well, thanks for listening. Now, if you want to dive even deeper on submissions notes, I highly recommend checking out my podcast called 3 Key Elements Every Submissions Note Needs, which is episode number 154. I dive deep on the exact formula for a winning submissions note. Check it out. Again, it's episode number 154, 3 Key Elements that Every Submissions Note Needs on the Actor's Career Compass. And if you ever want to stop guessing about your trajectory and actually measure it and work to improve it, you can learn more about my consulting program at martinbenson.com/coaching. That's MartinBenTsen, martinbenson.com/coaching. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.